And we're off. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift, where we talk about how a moment in time can make or break a person. How a paradigm shift is necessary in order for a person to get to the next level. How a paradigm shift is necessary in order to evolve. How a paradigm shift is necessary in order for someone to grow. Because that moment in time is what really makes or breaks people. And on this show, we talk about how it made people. And I'm going to be joined by people from all walks of life, from business, health, finance, and a multitude of other things. And this is just for my own curiosity. I want to bring my curiosity to the world, in essence. I want to share the conversations that I'm going to have with people, not only to learn and grow myself, but to give a platform for other people to also learn and grow, and to have open dialogue with people that I might not agree with, and to have lots of different opinions, to see where we're all going wrong. Because really, none of us know what we're doing. We're all here trying to find our way. So, a little bit about me. My name is Tunchi. I'm 22 years old and I'm an engineer. And I've been an engineer for the last 3 or so years. And that is really all I've been doing at this moment in time, just working on myself. I also had a podcast that I did for over a year. I think this is actually my third podcast. And I've started since I was 17. So I've been doing it for a while. And now I'm feeling that there was a need for me to change again. So the first podcast I had was called the Our Perspective podcast, which I made in secondary school, which was really good. And I got a lot of traction from other students. But that only had maybe 13 episodes and it wasn't consistent. So what happened after that was I made a new podcast called Tunchi's Pod. And that was more of a general, we talk about everything and anything and nothing really specific. And that was a joy to do as well, because there were so many people, so many different opinions, so many things that I learned while I did that it really helped not only me grow, but the people that actually listen grow as well. It had a lot of listeners, and from all over the world, everywhere. I even had people walk up to me in the street to tell me that they listened to my show, which was so, I'm still shook by that. It was really well received. But it stopped in July of 2021. And I've chosen to discontinue it because the paradigm shift is more related to the season I am in life right now. So many people that listen to to Tunchi's Pod that are here now, this is really why it ended and why I chose to start a new show. So we go back to July 2021, working away, as I do. Oh, by the way, all the episodes are still available to watch. If you really want to watch them and listen to them, and it still has a YouTube channel where a few episodes are up on it as well. I'm going to keep them all up available. I'm not going to take them down for documentation purposes. I'm going to keep them all there. There was over 100 episodes, 106 episodes that I recorded. And it was a very very good experience for me. I really enjoyed that stage. But a paradigm shift occurred in my life. And it all began when the podcast ended, because not too long after I recorded that last episode, I ended up contracting coronavirus along with all my family. There was me, my brother, my sister, and my mother. My father was traveling. And all of us contracted the virus, and that was the first time that we all got it. And it was actually pretty bad, actually. It was, looking back, like, I had body pain, you know, I had headaches, all of that stuff. But the main thing that was really crazy about all of that was that my mother was sent to the ICU in the hospital. So the ICU is the intensive care unit, and you're only sent there when your case is very bad or when it could be detrimental for your health not to be there. So she was in the ICU, and as you know, being in the ICU is a very scary type of experience for somebody, because when you're there, you really don't, like, you hear so many horror stories about people getting in there, and once they're there, their families can't visit and they never leave. And that was the thing that shook up the whole family. My whole family was shook up by that news. So I took my mother to the hospital, and they said that she had the virus and she had to go to the intensive care unit, and that her oxygen levels were really low. This was in September. No, sorry. This was in September, yes. September, I think the start of September. This is when the whole process started. 2 weeks go by and we're all good, but she's still in the ICU. And her conditions, actually, if anything, it's getting worse. Her condition got worse as she spent more and more time in the hospital. And this was a very detrimental part, because once she got over once the family, we all recovered from the virus, she was still there getting worse. And every single day that I was well, I was going there to see her, and they had to put her under because they had to sedate her so that nothing else in her body would be working other than her lungs, so that it could try its best so that the body would only fight the virus and not worry about anything else. So she was under for another 2 weeks. And so at this stage, she's under for about 3 weeks. And it was a detrimental part, because all this time, all I can think of is, what did I do to deserve this? You hear about these stories with people losing their parents to coronavirus and stuff like that, but it doesn't hit until it happens to you, until it gets to your doorstep. That's the only time something like that happens. And I felt it in that moment. I really felt it. And all I could do was pray. All I could do was pray that we would have better days. All I could do was not think about the regret of not letting her travel the world and explore life and enjoy life, because she suffered so much for us. You know, her and my father suffered so much for all of us kids. But for her to just leave us without, tasting the fruits of her labor, that would have killed me. And that's what was killing me in that time. I can say with full confidence that was the worst stage I've ever had in my life, because I was visiting every single day. My family couldn't visit. They couldn't bear to see her in that state that she was in. But I couldn't not go, because I'd never forgive myself if, God forbid, something happened to her and I chose to stay at home and get the news over a phone call. So I made sure to go there every single day. And I'd call every day, check up. Some days they'd call me and say that she's really not looking good, but they're doing what they can. And all I could do was pray and hope. And in that time, a verse that really took me through all of this turmoil was Romans 12:12. And it says, I'm paraphrasing here, be patient in times of tribulation, be joyous in hope, and be continuous in prayer. So those 3 instructions is exactly what I chose to do. That was a paradigm shift for me because it went from a thing of sorrow to a thing of joy. And I said to myself that no matter what happens, I will not blame God for his decision. And looking back, it was such a detrimental thing in my life because at that same time, it felt like my life was crumbling before my eyes. Because as soon as I called to say that she was administered into the hospital, the job I was working at the time, they let me go. So now I'm jobless. All of my family are at home and my father isn't around. So naturally I had to step up to be the man of the house. And that gave me that responsibility, which was just not forced upon me, but I took it. Because if they see me crumble, they will crumble. And that's the one thing that was on my head each time. So I made sure that my home was in order. I made sure that I took responsibility to give them updates, to smile, to be happy, to make sure everybody isn't in a certain way. But when I was on my own, I would cry. I would cry and cry and cry and cry. But when they saw me, they knew, okay, like they felt okay. And that's one thing that I realized at that moment in time about what it means to be a man. To be a man means you are responsible for not only you, but those around you, those that you deem as family. You're responsible for protecting and providing. And those 2 things were taken from me, from the company I worked for when I was let go out of the blue. So now my ability to protect was still there, I guess, but my ability to provide was no longer there. So one of the big things that this show is going to highlight is finances and how important it is to get your finances in order. Because at that moment in time, I had investments and I had savings that I was able to withstand that period as a result of that. And it was a great lesson for me as well to not rely on somebody else to feed me and my family. That was the key takeaway that I learned. And because it can always be taken from you. So fast forward, that happened. I lost my job, have COVID. So now I'm looking for another job. And I end up saying like one of the things that was really funny to me at the time is because I have no sense of ego when it comes to what it is that I have to do in order to progress. In that time, I said, okay, cool. When I get better, I'm going to start applying for jobs and I'll just work any job to try and bring some money in because eventually my savings and investments will run out. So I calculated I'd be okay for a certain period of time. I wouldn't really need to worry. But I said I might as well look for a job anyway, just to supplement it so I don't need to use it. And I ended up getting a job in Glendimplex as a general operative factory worker. And funny enough, it seemed that I was the only person that didn't care that I was working as a factory worker when I was an engineer before. It seemed like I was the only one that didn't care. And that was another lesson I learned, that the world will put things on your head to make you think that something is wrong with the way you're doing things. You're an engineer. How can you work there? So And this came from people very close to me. Not going to mention who. But it's like, you are an engineer. Why would you work there? That classist type of thing. I just didn't agree with it because it's like all I knew was, no, I just need to do what I have to do. There was no ego in this decision at all. It was a thing of focus on this because this is where we're going to go. It's not going to be forever. It's only going to be for a period until I get the next thing. So that's what happened. And I was there for a little bit, working away until I got something else. And at the same time, every day I'd finish, I'd go straight to the hospital to see my mom, which once again is sedated. She can't hear me. I'd just be talking to myself. But I'd be talking to her. But now looking back, she remembers. She remembers everything I was saying to her while she was still under. It just felt like a dream for her. She didn't realize she was under for a month. And not too long after that, just to round up the story, she ended up waking up. They lowered the dosage of sedatives that they were giving her. And she started to become more responsive. And slowly and slowly and slowly, as I was going through that stage, she ended up getting well and was administered into the A&E, which is like a level below the ICU, where she could sit on her own, she could talk again, but not well. Her voice was still very harsh. She was still very weak. She lost a lot of weight. And her body was still very sore. But ultimately, they lowered the dosage and she ended up getting well. Thank God. But the thing that was still on my head all that time was Romans 12:12. If I wasn't patient in that time of tribulation, who knows what could have happened? If I tried to do something that was rash, or if I tried to do something else, if I wasn't joyous in hope, you know? Hindsight is 2020. And looking back, I'm so happy everything happened the way it happened. Because it all worked out greatly in the end. Because the same day she was released from the hospital is the same day I got a great job. I got a really good job after that. On the same day. And that was just confirmation to me that God does work. You know, God works in mysterious ways. And the lessons that he taught me at that time just moved me. And that was really the beginning of the paradigm shift, because the paradigm did shift, because things went from not really like thinking about the future, but not really thinking about the future. And it went to a thing of trying to understand what you're trying to do, but also realizing that, wow, like things can really happen to you too. Not only other people that you see on social media, not only other people that you see elsewhere. It can happen in your own house, under your own door, under your own roof. And it really made me be more empathetic to other people that have lost family members and stuff like that due to this virus. And you really don't understand until it happens to you. And because it happened to me, I can understand it now. And because it happened to me, I ended up growing from it. I ended up becoming a better person. So, that's what happened at the end. So in November of 2021 is when she was released from the hospital, and that's when I started my new job. So, the process continues. After I saw that, I said, this woman has not traveled in years. So the first thing I made sure to do was that she traveled to see my older brother that was in Spain. And she did that with my father, and they had a great time, and they want to do traveling more. But before she went, She had no interest in traveling. She had no interest. Just give me the money because I need to help people. But now I'm realizing that life is really short and you need to take these chances because money will always come back to you. It will always come back. But your time won't. And that was a valuable lesson I also learned. That no matter what in life, money will always come back. But the time that you spend with family members, the time you spend doing things that you love, that time will come back. So wasting time, your most valuable resource, was something that I'm very against now. Wasting time is something that I just don't want to do anymore. After I seen this happening, after all of these things perspired, and as things went on, things were going great. I ended up getting married at the same time while my mom was still in the hospital. And no, I didn't get married in the hospital. I told my mother I was going to propose to my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, in March of 2022. My mom was well and we got married at that stage. It was an in-person family celebration ceremony. And in July of this year, a year later, I got married, which was the big ceremony with all my friends, with everybody there. Maybe I'll put a clip in here if I'm feeling it. And that's what happened. Everybody was there, and we had a great time. And now we are in September of 2022. Time really flies. This podcast was supposed to come out in July of 2022. I wanted it to be a year after the other one, but things just happened. I also relocated to Dublin, where I live now. So I've moved out, I've relocated, I've started another new job, and I have a lot more clarity about the future and how I want to tackle things. And this podcast was definitely one of the things that I said I must do. A new podcast was essential, and you can see why. Because it was a paradigm shift. It was a paradigm shift from my way of thinking before and my way of thinking after. I've completely changed as a person and I've grown. It's like I've grown in 10 years in the span of a couple of months. And that's why I'm here where I am today with this new show. And what I want all the listeners to expect from this show is great things. I want to bring people from entertainment, from business, education and health to come on the show so we can all talk about how that moment in time changed them. So that not only can they voice these things, but also help other people that might be going through the same thing. To inspire people that might be going through the same thing, that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. No matter what you're going through in life, if you're listening right now, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And I can say that with full confidence because it happened to me. And through everything that happens to you that is deemed as bad, there is always good. Because life isn't just a take. Life is a give and take. Something might be taken from you, but you might be given something in return. You know, the law of equivalent exchange. Something has been taken, but you also gain something as a result. You can't only gain without also losing something as a result. And that's where we are today. So I just wanted to start an episode, just to get this out there, just to let people know I'm back. Let me know what you think, what episode ideas you'd like to hear. Please give this a rating, and we'll see where we go from here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.